When you find the right person, it really won't feel like you have to try. It won't feel like you have to change yourself. They should just accept you for who you are. I'm gonna cry. I love this book so much. Hey guys, it's Sam and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be updating you on the books that I read in February. Did I read every book on my TBR? No. Did I read lots of books that I absolutely adored? Yes. I'll do a little bit of a book haul, so some books that I've bought, some books I've received, and just a little bit of an update for you guys on the fun things that happened in February, because even though she was short, even though she was, you know, those 2 days less than a normal month, she was mighty and she felt like she went on forever. So in February I read 10 books. Here they are. One of them was an ebook, so she's not here, but I'm really impressed with everything that I read. I read a range and I read a lot of my new favourites, and I can't wait to share them with you guys. A lot of the reasons why I didn't get round to reading my full February TBR is because I booked a last minute trip to Mexico. I have never been to Mexico, and because I was in a hot sunny country, I didn't want to read a lot of the heavy fantasy books that I put on my February TBR. If you see that video now, I'm so sorry. I didn't get through that. So I read a few more kind of light-hearted romances than I thought I was going to this month. But I've got so many new favourites, so let's get into them. I started off the month reading North is the Night by Emily Raff. This one has been on my TBR for a while. I got sent an early copy at the end of last year and I was really excited to get to it because this author wrote Packing Around and Packing Wild, which, if you don't know, is a spicy reverse harem hockey romance series, and I really enjoyed it. So I was excited to see what the author was going to do in this fantasy world, which is Finnish folklore inspired. Unfortunately, this one just didn't hit the spot for me. I felt like it was a bit too slow in pacing. It could have been 150 pages less, and I wasn't that interested in either of the two main characters or their romantic storylines. However, the world that is filled with Finnish folklore and mythology and gods and goddesses is so interesting, and I think this is definitely the strong point of the book. If you are someone that wants to read an epic fantasy with Finnish folklore, perhaps this one would be a good one for you. However, because I wasn't invested in the characters and their storylines, it just dragged me out of the story, and for that reason I gave this book 2 stars. Will I read the sequel? Maybe. If I have it, I might pick it up, but I'm definitely not going to put it at the top of my TBR. More fantasy! I read book 1 and book 2 in the Legends of Tesmar series, Blood and Steel and Vows and Ruins. This is such a fun fantasy romance, like a solid 4 stars for me so far. I think one of them I might have given 4.5, but I'm just really enjoying the journey. I think if you're someone that likes an emphasis on the romance in their fantasy, then this is perfect. It's also quite spicy quite early on, so you get that hit quite quickly, and you're definitely going to be invested in these 2 characters because they are very lovable. Their banter is great as well. This is a 4-book series, and we're getting to see our main character slowly grow into her powers and try and meet her goal of becoming the first female warrior. And obviously to do that, she trains under one of the hottest warriors in all the land, and the 2 have really great chemistry. So that's kind of where we're at. There's all sorts of political intrigue that's woven into this. We have really great fleshed out side characters that you can get invested in, which I really like, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go. So I'm definitely going to keep reading. There's a kind of like novella, maybe it's not a novella, but there's a separate book that people suggest to read in between book 2 and book 3, which I am going to read at some point. I don't know when yet. It's called Slaying the Shadow Prince. I think that's probably why I haven't got on to book 3 and 4, because I'm kind of like hesitant on whether to start that standalone or not. But if anyone's read the series and knows whether I should, you know, keep going and read that one first before I continue, then let me know. I read Reckless by Elsie Silver. This one might be my favourite one yet. I loved Heartless, but I think these 2 might be like joint top for me. I can't really pick because I loved Willa and Cade so much and their dynamic with Luke, but this one was so perfect because Winter and Theo were perfect together, and I actually really liked the whole baby storyline. I didn't think I would, because when I saw this book and I saw surprise pregnancy, I thought, I'm not sure about this, but the way that it's handled in this just makes your heart melt, because it's so cute to see Theo falling in love with his baby, and seeing Theo as a dad. It just hits so good, and I think the banter between Theo and Winter was just perfect to keep the books exciting, because in a romance series like this it can really start to feel like copy and paste, whereas I do genuinely feel like Elsie Silver's bringing something new to each of them, and to the point where I actually want to keep going with all of the rest of her series as well. So yes, I have started Hopeless to read Bu's story, and then I will start Wild Love, I think, because the third book in that series has just come out, everyone's talking about it, and I want to get in on it. I'm officially a cowboy romance girly now. So some of the books that I had on my February TBR that I didn't finish were Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I got 100 pages in and I didn't keep going because I kind of got distracted by some other books, and I thought maybe I'd wait for my friends to buddy read this with me. However, most of them have all finished this book and I'm still on 100 pages. I'm enjoying the discourse at the moment about the book, just seeing what everyone's opinions are on it and their expectations for how Ali Hazelwood was going to explore kink, and you know, how maybe she failed to meet their expectations. I just find it really interesting. So I'm gonna read it perhaps this month and join in on the conversation. I was enjoying it, but I don't think it had the same charm as some of her other books. I think for me, my favourite Ali Hazelwood so far might be Love Theoretically. Something about that book really hit the spot for me. I'm not sure if this one will be a favourite of mine just because I'm 100 pages in and I don't feel that much connection to either of the characters. I'm not too invested in them either, so we'll see how it goes. Started Ambessa by C.L. Clarke but then put it down. I love the writing style and I really like Ambessa as a character, but something about this being a video game book just kind of like pulled me out of it, and I couldn't really remember a lot of the places from Arcane in this book, so I feel like maybe this wasn't the right time for me to read it. But I do want to pick it up in future because I do want to know more about Ambessa's character, just I don't think this month was the right time for me to read it. I didn't even manage to start The Road of Bones by Demi Winters, but I do really want to read this, so you might see this in an upcoming TBR video. I just don't know when I'll get to it. I feel like February I was so on top of my TBR, I was so on top of my reading game, and then I got really ill and then I went on holiday, so then everything went out the window, which is also why I didn't start Sorcery and Small Magics, because obviously I was expecting to read this in a really cozy fantasy mood, but then ended up going on a sunny holiday and I didn't really feel like picking this up. I did, however, start A Song of Legends Lost, which I am 67 pages into, and I am loving this world. I'm going to keep reading this in March. You will see this in my March TBR video, and yeah, I think the setup is incredible. It's already so rich. I'm loving how much information the author is giving on the world and the characters and the powers and the magic system. It's just so cool, and I can't wait to give you my thoughts on this one, hopefully this month. Now for the books I read on holiday. So I got on a 10-hour plane journey to Cancun from London, and on that flight I thought, you know, I'm getting on this flight at 9 AM and maybe I'll read for a little bit, have a nap, watch a film. No, that did not happen. Do you know what happened instead? I read the whole of Silver Elite by Dani Francis, and yes, I tabbed the whole thing on the plane. You actually can't see a lot of my tabs because some of them are like see-through. I don't know if the camera will pick them up. But yeah, I read this start to finish on the plane. The person next to me probably thought I was crazy because I was like giggling to myself. I filmed some of my reactions when truly I couldn't hold them in. And my boyfriend was sitting next to me starting Mistborn, so he got some of my reactions. But honestly, I don't know how to explain it to you. When you're reading a book so good and you know a lot of your friends have either read it or they have it on their TBR, and you just want to message them and say, pick up this book right now or else, and I couldn't message anyone because I had no internet, I was on a plane. So it was kind of like a really special experience for me. Like when I see this book on my shelf, I immediately think back to how incredible this made that plane journey, because it felt like it was 2 hours rather than 10, and actually we were delayed like 40 something minutes, so it was basically 11 hours. But getting into the book, this is an adult dystopian, so just think Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner, matched by Ali Condi, but that tension, angst, yearning, high stakes of romance that you get from reading like your favourite fantasy romance books. So starting off with this, Oh, I don't even know where to start. There's so much to talk about. I love this book so much. So this book is set in a post-nuclear war world where a lot of the continents are uninhabitable, and some people have been genetically altered by the nuclear radiation, and now they have superpowers. If you have superpowers, you are labeled as modified. During the time that this book is set, the modified are actually persecuted and unalived, and the main giveaway that you are modified is your veins will turn silver when you use your powers. Some of the powers that you can have if you're modified include things like forcing people, like with your mind, to do things that they don't want to do. You might be able to see the future. You can project images into other people's minds. The main power for a modified is being able to create a mind link to other people so that you can basically like talk to each other in your minds. So it's all pretty cool, really. However, our main character has been in hiding her whole life. She's a modified, and the person that she's been living with has been able to train her and help her hone her powers to be very, very powerful, meaning that she's quite an asset to the resistance. A lot of crazy things happen, and our main character is forced into a situation where she has to go into the most elite training program, and she has to do that all undercover because no one can find out that she's modified. However, when she's there, she falls in love with the hottest man possible, who is also the captain, and the two have a push and pull dynamic all the way through, and her all the while knowing that she's going to betray him because she's part of the uprising, and two, she's modified, so if he finds out, he has to turn her in. There is so much more to this book than what I've explained, but there's great interweaving plot lines. The stakes are incredibly high. You learn so much about this world and how it's ended up in the state that it has. The best romance. The best romance. I can't explain to you. This book is going to be one of my favourite books of this year, solidly, and it's also going to be one of my favourite books of all time. In fact, I will not be shutting up about this book, so this is not going to be the last time you see this book on my channel. I think this book is going to be so big this year. It's out in May. I think all of us girlies who have been starved of good like dystopian energy since the Hunger Games, since Divergent, we are finally getting something that fulfills that hole, that feels nostalgic but also so fresh. And if there's one book recommendation you're going to take away from me this year, let it be this one. Look into my eyes, let it be this one. I've also got a few more videos up on my TikTok page if you wanted to see like more reactions and just me talking more casually about this book, and any other kind of updates I do for this will also be on there as well. I did read Fable for the End of the World by Ava Reid, which was on my February TBR. Cha-ching! I gave this one 4 stars, but I feel like the more I think about it, it's actually maybe like a 3 to 3.5. I think I gave it a 4 stars just because I know that if I read this when I was younger, which is really who this target audience is for, then I would have been feral for it. One thing I really enjoyed about this book is the way it feels so real. It feels haunting in a really scary way, like our world could genuinely end up like this if we carry on the way we are, not only environmentally but also politically and socially. In this world, the government encourages its citizens to accrue large amounts of debt, and once they hit rock bottom, then you're forced to give up a name of someone to enter into the Lamb's Gauntlet, which is similar to the Hunger Games. You essentially go in and you have an assassin that chases you down, and everything is recorded and live streamed for everyone to see. So one of our main characters is someone that goes into the Lamb's Gauntlet and the other one is an assassin. So we have a really interesting dynamic there, and of course because this is a YA dystopian, those two people end up falling in love. There are certain parts of this where I feel like I had to suspend my disbelief, or I had to kind of like not think about things logically, like would I be kissing while I have an open wound on my leg? I guess maybe, I'll just go with it. And I wasn't that big of a fan of the ending. I feel like the first half of this book was stronger than the second half. But if you're someone that enjoys Ava Reid, if you're someone that wants to get into a dystopian, especially this is a standalone, then I think this is a really good option because I don't think there's been a lot that's come out recently. And of course, because it's Ava Reid, it is well written. I just feel like there were some plot holes in the story or some bits that didn't make sense if you kind of take a step back and look at them from the bigger picture. But for the majority, I did enjoy it. My friend Abby loves this book, Talking at Night by Claire Dabley, and has been banging on about it for the last few years, and I finally picked it up. and I read it in one day and I really enjoyed it. I gave this book 4 stars, and this is definitely for the Sally Rooney girlies. This book is the epitome of right person, wrong time, and that wrong time actually spans decades because these two people have been affected by basically shared trauma, and they can't find a way to be together and overcome that because they bloody won't go to therapy and sort it out. So whenever the time comes for them to be able to choose each other, they always choose wrong. And not only is that at times frustrating, it makes it hard for you to root for the characters because you just start thinking, do you even deserve a happy ending when you're being this chaotic? However, there was something really beautiful about the way this was written, about kind of the lost moments that pass you by that you don't take hold of, that is just very realistic to real life. And I can't wait to read more from Claire Daveney. I definitely would recommend it. I haven't read any Sally Rooney, but this doesn't have any quotation marks, so I guess if you've read Sally Rooney then this won't be completely unfamiliar to you, but this was the first time I've read a book without quotation marks, and it did take me by surprise at the beginning, but I did quickly get used to it, and I actually enjoyed the effect that it had while I was reading it, because at times you have to kind of make sense of what was actually said out loud and what was just inside the character's brain. And then I read all of Abby Jimenez's like Part of Your World books. So Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer. This was not on my February TBR. In fact, I was saving this for the summer, but then when I planned my Mexico trip, literally 2 weeks before I went to Mexico, I was like, this is the perfect time, and I'm so happy I got through all of them because this was just the best romance reading experience. Because if you don't know, all of the 3 books, I don't have the other one, I read it on my Kindle, but they all connect. So there's a character in each one that kind of follows through, and they all have a relationship of some kind. So you'll see cameos of the previous characters in the next book, and I've just realised interconnected romances are probably some of my favourite books of all time, and this is definitely going to go down as some of my favourite books of all time. I mean, Part of Your World gets a 3-star, but Yours Truly and Just for the Summer, 5 freaking stars. I laughed, I cried, I couldn't put it down. I'm obsessed with all of these characters and the journeys that they had to go on to be together. So if you don't know, it's kind of like small town romance, but there's a different focus in each one. So I'd say the first one is definitely overcoming the things that have happened to you and realizing that you deserve good things. In the second one, our main male love interest has anxiety, and I love the way that was explored. There's also a random organ transplant storyline, which was really well handled. It also has fake dating, and some of my favourite quotes are in this one. I think one of the quotes is something like, "I'm sorry that someone has made you feel like it's hard to love you." And all about how when you find the right person, it really won't feel like you have to try, it won't feel like you have to change yourself, they should just accept you for who you are. I'm gonna cry. I love this book so much. And then this one, oh, I might cry again. This one, the focus is really meeting people where they are in their life, and if you love someone and you feel that connection to them, you will just show up for them and you will be there. I won't go into it any more than that, but when I say I miss these characters, I genuinely do get emotional, but I also think I have hay fever. If you need a good romance series to get into this year, you need to read Abby Jimenez. I mean, push through Part of Your World, but these two have made a mark on my entire soul, and I won't ever forget these characters. I honestly love them. I didn't read this one in February, but I did read it at the beginning of March, so I'll just show it to you anyway as part of the book haul. But I got the Illumicrate edition of First Time Caller by B.K. Morrison. I read this also on holiday in 2 days, and once again it was just so soft and quiet and lovely about real people falling in love in real life circumstances. These are older characters, which I really enjoyed because they just had better communication than in a lot of romances sometimes when there's a lot of miscommunication trope. But look how sweet. It's all set around this radio show about love in which our main character Aiden is a presenter of, and because he Lucy's had so many stories about love and romance and people talking about trivial things. He's kind of like fallen out of love with love. But then comes Lucy, when one day her young daughter calls in and basically asks for advice for her mum. Lucy ends up getting on the phone, and a clip of Aiden and Lucy talking about love goes absolutely viral, to the point where they could actually save the radio station. And the two slowly fall in love the more that they talk, and honestly, their romance is so cute. Look at this. This artwork is so sweet. Can you imagine like tuning into a radio station and listening to two people slowly falling in love? That's what this book was about. Look how cute the naked hardback is. And then I'll show you the back end papers as well. It's just so good, guys. Definitely one of my favourite romances I've read in a while as well. I think because I read this after Abby Jimenez, it didn't hit as hard as it could. I know that on a reread I'll probably love it just as much, or potentially even more. For Valentine's Day, my boyfriend got me the whole Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, which I've wanted to read for a while because my friends Tammy, Abby, Jess all love this series and basically want me to start the Brandon Sanderson universe, and so I will. My boyfriend actually ended up reading all 3 books on holiday, listening to them on audiobook. So yeah, I'm already behind apparently another person in my life who's fallen in love with Brandon Sanderson. He also got me Mongrel by Hanako Footman, which has been on my TBR for a while, and I can't wait to read it. This cover is just stunning. I've been waiting to open this one on camera, but it's the it's the broken binding edition of Blood Over Brighthaven, and it comes so beautifully wrapped. I honestly love ordering things from them. I've not ordered much, and every time it comes wrapped like this, it always feels like such a beautiful gift. So let's open it together. But I read Blood Over Brighthaven end of last year, and it's by Emma Wang, who wrote The Sword of Kaigen. So if you haven't read any of her work, you absolutely have to, because she's an excellent writer. Blood Over Brighthaven is more on the dark academia side of fantasy. If you're someone that enjoys, oh my god, I can't get it out. If you're someone that enjoys magic that comes with a price, this is the epitome of that. I can't get it out. Ooh, oh my god. Wow, that cover is so good. That cover is so good. Don't like the sprayed edges as much as I did when I bought it. The burning building, the quote on the back. Oh, that's good. That's so good. The end papers of the city where it's set. Oh damn, they actually nailed this. This art style, I need to find out who this artist is because this looks so good. It's also signed and stamped. I also got my January Illumicrate, which was Watermoon by Samantha Sotoyambao. If you've been following me, you know I really enjoyed that book. It's very whimsical, it's beautifully written, it's like Studio Ghibli. And when I saw that January's book was going to be Watermoon, I didn't skip my Illumicrate, guys. I'm sorry, I had to keep it because look at these end papers. Absolutely beautiful. And it's signed. And once again, on the back is more gorgeous artwork. I bought books 3 and books 4 in the Legends of Tesmar, which is Fate and Furies and Shadows and Storms. So these 2 I'll hopefully be reading in the upcoming months. I'm really enjoying it, and I really want to read Iron and Embers. Everyone's just told me how good this series is, and honestly they were right. They were absolutely right. It's such a solid fantasy romance. And then I got my fairyloot editions of Ashley Poston's books. So if you know me, you know that I love The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and this is one of my favourite books of all time, so I absolutely had to get it. And now I'm reading Dead Romantics. I'm upset with myself that I didn't read this sooner because I've almost finished it. I've teared up so many times. I think Ashley Poston just has such a beautiful way of writing about grief and loss that's so unexpected in a fun romance book that it always catches me off guard. So if you're someone that loves her work, you should definitely get these editions. They have a gorgeous sprayed edge. They're also all signed, which I obviously love having signed books by my favourite authors, but in this one she signed it in a lemon. On the naked hardback there's also really cute little illustrations that go along with the story. And once I posted about these editions on my TikTok, someone was like, Sam, you're going to adore a novel love story. And I was like, really? Even more than The 7 Year Slip? So I'll keep you guys updated, but so far I'm reading Dead Romantics, and I might go straight onto this one after. At the airport before going on holiday, I did buy The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa, and this one has a really interesting premise, and it's set on this island where things can disappear, and once they disappear they lose all meaning. So there are things that no longer exist on this island, like birds. Once they're taken away, your memory of what a bird is gone. You will lose all association to it as well, and slowly this island will lose everything until it even forgets that it exists at all. So I'm intrigued to see where it's going to go. It feels very haunting and like harrowing at the moment, but I'm enjoying the writing style. If you've read this one and you have any thoughts on it, please let me know. I'm excited to see where it's going to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you're reading in the comments, what you'll be reading in March, what books are you excited for. Are there any books on here that I've talked about that you're adding to your TBR or that you've read? I will be back very soon with a very late March TBR and some other fun videos for you. In the meantime, you can catch me on TikTok, Instagram, Goodreads, all that good stuff, and I will see you very soon. To know more about this world and the magic systems and